Welcome to History with Herodotus, where we delve into the vast expanse of human experience, navigating the complexities of the past to uncover the hidden patterns and grand narratives that have shaped our world. Today, we embark on a fascinating journey through one of the most pivotal conflicts in European history, the Great Northern War, a tumultuous period that ravaged the continent from 1700 to 1721. As we set out to explore this captivating tale, let us first situate ourselves within the broader landscape of early 18th century Europe. It was an era marked by the ascent of powerful empires, the intricate dance of alliances, and the unrelenting pursuit of dominance. At the heart of this maelstrom lay the Baltic region, a hotly contested area teeming with strategic ports, lucrative trade routes, and fertile lands. Here, the Kingdom of Sweden, under the visionary leadership of Charles XII, had established itself as a major power, its influence stretching from the frozen tundras of Lapland to the sun-kissed shores of the Baltic Sea. Meanwhile, the neighboring states of Denmark, Norway, Saxony, Poland, and Russia, each with their own agendas and aspirations, watched Sweden's rise with a mixture of awe and trepidation. The Treaty of Preobrazhenskoye, signed in 1697, had forged an unlikely alliance between Russia and Denmark, Norway, as they sought to counterbalance the growing might of Sweden. However, this fragile pact was soon tested by the machinations of Augustus II, the cunning Elector of Saxony and King of Poland, who harbored his own ambitions for expansion. In the years leading up to the Great Northern War, the region was abuzz with diplomatic intrigue, as monarchs and statesmen engaged in a delicate ballet of negotiations, each seeking to outmaneuver their opponents. The Swedish king, Charles XII, a young and fearless leader, had already demonstrated his mettle on the battlefield, earning the admiration of his people and the respect of his enemies. His vision for a greater Sweden, one that would stretch from the Baltic to the Black Sea, drove him to pursue an aggressive foreign policy, which would soon propel the region into chaos. As tensions simmered, the spark that would ignite the Great Northern War was being kindled in the courts and council chambers of Europe. The Danes, eager to reclaim their lost territories and prestige, began to mobilize their forces, while the Russians, under the guidance of Peter the Great, were quietly building their military might, awaiting the perfect moment to strike. Meanwhile, the Saxons and Poles, bound together by their shared interests and fears, watched with bated breath as the Swedish lion continued its relentless march towards dominance. As the summer of 1700 approached, the fragile balance of power in the Baltic region began to unravel. On February 12, 1700, Denmark-Norway, seeking to reclaim its lost territories and prestige, declared war on Sweden, marking the official beginning of the Great Northern War. The Danish army, led by King Frederick IV, quickly mobilized and launched a series of attacks on Swedish-held territories in Norway and Denmark. However, the Swedish king, Charles XII, was not one to be caught off guard. He had been anticipating this move, and had already begun to assemble his forces along the border. On July 24, 1700, Charles XII led his army into Denmark, catching the Danish forces off guard. The Swedish king's military prowess and tactical genius were on full display as he swiftly defeated the Danish army at the Battle of Humlebach, forcing King Frederick IV to sign the Treaty of Travendal on August 18, 1700. This treaty marked a significant victory for Sweden, as Denmark-Norway was forced to withdraw from the war and cede several key territories to Sweden. Meanwhile, in Poland, Augustus II, the Elector of Saxony and King of Poland, had been secretly negotiating with Peter the Great of Russia, seeking to form an alliance against Sweden. On November 19, 1700, Augustus II and Peter the Great signed the Treaty of Preobrazhenskoye, formally establishing their alliance and marking a significant shift in the balance of power in the region. As the war raged on, Charles XII turned his attention to the Russian threat, leading his army into Livonia, a region in present-day Latvia. In January 1701, the Swedish king's military campaign was marked by a series of brilliant victories, including the Battle of Riga on July 15, 1701, where he defeated the Russian army and forced them to retreat. However, Peter the Great was not one to be easily deterred. He had been quietly building his military might, and in 1702, he launched a series of counterattacks against Swedish-held territories in Ingria, a region in present-day Russia. The Russian army, led by Peter the Great himself, scored several significant victories, including the Battle of Narva on August 20, 1704, where they defeated the Swedish army and forced them to retreat. The war continued to rage on for years, with both sides suffering heavy losses. In 1706, Charles XII launched a series of attacks on Saxony, seeking to defeat Augustus II and force him out of the war. The Swedish king's military campaign was marked by several significant victories, including the Battle of Frostadt on February 13, 1706, where he defeated the Saxon army and forced them to retreat. As the years went by, the Great Northern War became a complex and multifaceted conflict, involving not only Sweden, Denmark, Norway, Russia, and Saxony, but also other European powers such as Poland, Prussia, and Hanover. The war would continue to rage on for over 2 decades, leaving deep scars on the region and forever changing the balance of power in Europe. As the years went by, the Great Northern War continued to rage on, with both sides suffering heavy losses. In 1709, Charles XII launched a disastrous invasion of Russia, which ended in defeat at the Battle of Poltava on July 8, 1709. This battle marked a significant turning point in the war, as it forced Charles XII to flee to the Ottoman Empire and led to the rise of Peter the Great as a dominant force in European politics. The war continued to drag on for over a decade, with various alliances and coalitions forming and dissolving. In 1718, Charles XII was killed in action during the siege of Frederiksted, and his death marked the beginning of the end of the war. The Treaty of Nystad, signed on September 10, 1721, officially brought an end to the Great Northern War, with Sweden ceding significant territories to Russia, including Ingria, Estonia, and Livonia. The Great Northern War had a profound impact on European history, shaping the balance of power and influencing the development of various nations. As Peter the Great once said, "I have conquered a kingdom, but I have also conquered myself," reflecting on the transformative nature of the war for Russia. The war marked the emergence of Russia as a major European power, while Sweden's defeat led to a period of decline and reevaluation. Today, the Great Northern War is remembered as a complex and multifaceted conflict that had far-reaching consequences for Europe. It is studied by historians and scholars as an example of the intricacies of 18th-century diplomacy and warfare, and its legacy can still be seen in the modern-day borders and politics of the region. The war also had a profound impact on the development of military tactics and strategies, with the introduction of new technologies and innovations that would shape the course of future conflicts. The Great Northern War may seem like a distant and obscure chapter in history, but its influence can still be felt today. It serves as a reminder of the complex and often brutal nature of international relations and the enduring impact that wars and conflicts can have on nations and societies. That's all for today's History with Herodotus. Remember to like, share, and subscribe, and until next time, remember that to understand the present, we must first understand the past.